welcome to the show. Happy Friday, March 29th to everybody out there, and welcome to Beyond the Sim with me, Shaun Cole, and my co-host Billy Strage and Brandon Waters. How you guys doing?
We're so close. You were right there. I wouldn't have done any better.
How are you guys?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm full of adrenaline because I got a lot going on, so I'm super stressed out. But like for me, that's usually fun because the adrenaline pops, and so yeah, I'm a little all over the place today. I could be out of control, that's for sure.
Oh, out of control, Shaun.
On a personal level,
Nice.
I'm completely out of control right now. So why shouldn't it carry over into the show and sim racing and everything else as well?
Well, you know, it would be boring if it was tame.
Absolutely. How about you, Brandon? You didn't speak up much.
Oh, well, I had, Billy was speaking. I didn't want to speak over him, but I'm doing fantastic. On a personal level, I had to look at the date on the computer just to make sure. I was like, is it the 29th? It's kind of a reflection of how I'm doing, but it's been a good week. So, yeah, I'm excited for the show and, yeah, ready for the weekend.
It's almost April. I can't believe it.
Holy cow.
I cannot believe we're at the end of March already.
Yeah.
So you've been dyeing your eggs, Shaun? Getting ready for Easter?
Oh, see, that's the thing. It's
That's
like
personal.
Oh God. So no, I have not been dyeing any eggs. I like I said, I've lost track of time. I didn't even realize Easter was coming. So all right, let's get back to sim racing. What have you guys been up to this week? What's going on in sim racing? What's fun? What's hot?
Go ahead, Brandon.
So for me personally, and by all means, everybody in chat, chime in. Let us know what you've been doing, and love to see what everybody's been up to. But me personally, did some practice last weekend. Nordschleife is kicking my butt, and been working on trying to figure it out. That place is so humbling that I'm struggling with the fact that. And some other people, we were talking about this the other day, was that you start doing a lap and maintaining your focus over that whole course of that lap, since it's not just, 1 minute, 2 minute, or, we'll see what Shaun's been up to. It's been titwinkled. But yeah, that Nordschleife will titwinkle you. But, I've kind of had to change my technique of how I've been driving that place and breaking the individual components up and kind of breaking the track up. And it seems like every time I get a straightaway, instead of just letting my brain fade, I have to kind of refocus for the next section and break it up that way. And it seems to have helped quite a bit for learning that place. But other than that, I finally took the plunge, and I think we'll probably talk about this here in a little bit, but Dirt Rally 2.0, I bought it and tried it out. And it's been great. And I have some kind of takeaways that we'll probably cover when I think we have some news for that. And then just been watching some YouTube, tried to get around to setting up my ACC to see if I could optimize it, see if they've made any progress, but didn't get there. But I did watch that iRacing World of Outlaws season opener, and I think we're going to cover that later too.
I'm so glad you got to watch that. I want to hear about that, so I'm looking forward to that part of the show for sure.
So yeah, we'll circle back to that, but I don't know, what have you been up to, Shaun?
What about Billy? Billy, you want to go?
Yeah. I finished the sprint car video, so I posted that in iRacing, and then I did. So I kind of had an interesting back and forth with Austin. Austin on Twitter PMs me and says, "Here, I'm doing this race room leaderboard challenge. Here's my setup, give it a shot and see what you think." And then we kind of had a back and forth real quick, and he had made his suggestion. He's like, what would be interesting is to see the difference between what you could do with a default setup versus the setup that I've given you, because he is #1 on the board. Oh. And I'm like, okay, that could be cool, because I have no idea how this is going to work.
Right.
So I did that video. I would encourage people to watch it, please. But the short of it was, I did go quicker with his setup by, I think I was around 22nd or so, 23rd on the leaderboard with the default setup. and I went 7/10 quicker with his setup,
Oh, wow.
which put me about 15th, I think. But it was super nervous. It was really hard to control and be consistent with it because it took a different driving style, and I took a half an hour with each car. So the goal was kind of just run half an hour with each setup and see how I could do. And it was definitely hard to adapt to what he had. If I could have had like a combination of the default and his setup, it would have been, I think I could have knocked off another second and probably got to about 4th or 5th on the board ish, somewhere around there.
Right.
Now,
Now, do you think that's a driving style difference, like that he drives a little differently than you do? Or, I mean, are setups that unique, or is the setup for the drivers, is the setup more for the driver, or is it more for the track?
I'm going to follow up to that, Billy, when you answer it.
A little of both. So it was the IndyCar. It was the Formula Race Room, US, whatever it's called, Formula US in Race Room, and it was around Laguna Seca. And my brain gets stuck in a mode where I realistically try to make the car go around the track. So I noticed with his setup, I don't know what the parameters that developers use. So for instance, what I mean is the dampers. They use 1 to 32 settings. You have an adjustment span of 1 to 32. And so I don't know what that means. I don't know. And the reason I say it like this is because in sprint cars, we had a range that we worked in too, but each corner had a different range and we numbered it like that. So for instance, on the left front, you could do anywhere from 3 to maybe 5 or 6. And the right front would be the same-ish. The left rear would be 3 to 9 or 10. The right rear would be anywhere from 4 to 6. So we never went to a 1. We never went to a 2. Likewise, we never went to a 12. Even though those are available, that's not something that we used. So this is kind of the problem that I have with some of the sim racing content that's out there is we get a wide range of stuff, of setup options to essentially break the car. And
Right.
and to the guys' credits at the top of the leaderboard, they figured out how to break the car to get it to do what they need to do to be fast. And I think it takes a different mindset to run the cars at that pace like they do, because I noticed I had to take lines that I wouldn't normally do in real life, and I had to work the car differently than what at least I perceive to be what I would do in real life. So it's just it proved to me that sim racing really is its own thing, even though we're trying to make it analogous and work with real life things per se. It really is its own unique discipline. That's what I'm looking for.
Sure. I've always said that sim racing is like if you were trying, like I see all these articles right now where they're trying to compare Formula 1 to IndyCar at COTA. And I laugh every time I see the article because one's like an unlimited series and one is almost a spec series. And it's like, you can't compare the two. They're so opposite other than the fact that they kind of resemble each other in shape and form. But I often have said that sim racing is as unique as like a completely different breed of car class. It's like you can't compare a Formula 1 car to a NASCAR, for example. And it's like sim racing has its own parameters that are completely unique to sim racing. And then, just like real life racing, those parameters do change from sim to sim, car to car, and whatnot. And that even when they're trying really hard, like I think one of the best simulated cars in all of sim, and this is my personal opinion, is the Global MX-5 on iRacing. And the reason I say it is because when I watch races on TV and I watch iRacing races of that car, they look identical. Like everything about the timing and everything. And you talk to guys who've driven the Mazda. Also, I think that car was very rare, and then I think it was actually developed out of the gate with the sim going side by side with it. But even then, even saying that's the best, if I'm just, as my example, I'm saying this is the best, it's still just a representation of that car. You know, it is not that car. It is at best only a simulation. It's still at best missing all the faults or flaws or differences between sim racing and real life racing. And you know, it's no more an MX-5 than it is a Porsche 911, you know, GT3 in some ways.
Sure.
So I completely agree with you, and it doesn't surprise me. And I think it's great that they try. And we've talked about them letting you do settings beyond what are even realistic in real life. And it's like, well, come on, tighten that up too. You know?
That's my point, is that for instance, like I was speaking, the 32 individual setup, you know, or steps in the dampers, like realistically, what is the range that a normal IndyCar team would be using? It's probably, you know, the front end, you may have a range of maybe 8 steps, 10 steps. The rear maybe the same, maybe a little more, but you got 32 steps, and it's like, do they really use 32 steps all the time?
Right.
And so it just reinforces what the difference between everything is. And, you know, afterwards I was done, and Austin watched it, and he said, that's interesting. He says that it kind of shows the difference between theoretically somebody who knows how to drive a car versus somebody who theoretically doesn't really know how to drive a race car. To them, they don't think about those things. And he was kind of like, you know, you really shouldn't lose how you're driving, because in the real world, that still helps you a lot. It was just an interesting back and forth, and I thought it was an interesting video to just try to see if I could even get close. You know, with a little more practice and a little more trying, other than just a half an hour, I probably could have gotten even closer. But I think it was a good litmus test as to, you know, if the baseline, and there was a little bit of confusion. I thought I stated it clearly in the video, but this is predicated upon the fact that the baseline is decent. I understand if the baseline's broken, you can make it and you're going to be 5 seconds faster or whatever. But if the baseline is a decent setup, and the I don't know, just the whole scenario has a controlled situation that is not out of the norm, then this is the game that you might be able to do. Maybe a little more, maybe a little less, and depending on your skill level and how you approach sim racing. And I admit that I have a hard time. I don't feel like I've ever been a big leaderboard person, and so I feel like I have a hard time breaking my brain enough from what I've learned to sit there and go, okay, think about this differently. You've got to attack this corner differently. You've got to push differently. You've got to ignore the feelings that you're getting. I put that in quotes. And so it just takes me longer when you can break the car like that.
Right.
So yeah, I did that. And Brandon, I know you said you had a thought.
Well, you kind of touched on it, because my thought is that, you know, is the difference the driver, and the fact that, you know, it's a skill thing, or is it and I know there's been some controversy with Austin and some of his statements in the past, and some content he's put out about exploits in sims, you know, and I think you kind of encapsulated that in your answer. But yeah, so that was my point. Is it's, you know, is it taking advantage of the exploits that are in the sims versus just a tuning skill set overall? So,
well, when you make the separation, okay, so nobody wants to hear these words, but when you stop trying to act like we are one-to-one to road racing, then it becomes a different strategy and a different game. Because I dare say in real life racing, you're looking for any option, setup change, anything you can possibly do to get an advantage one way or another. And, you know, they're not exploits until they overstep the rule book. You know, you're within the boundaries until you've broken the rules, so to speak. And I think that in sim racing, we're doing something very similar. We're looking for anything and everything, whether it be a trick on the road. You know, we talk about the Le Mans issue where cars were cutting because of the penalties, you know, and it's like we can argue all day long about the rule book, but the bottom line is, as racers, as engineers, we're looking for any and every performance advantage that we can possibly get.
Yeah, I would just say that the difference is the real world physics limit us in different ways than a sim does.
Yeah, that's true. That's definitely true.
Yeah, so it's a different breaking point. I feel like, you know, when you break it in real life, there's major consequences. When you break it in a sim, you go faster.
Yeah.
Yeah. So so yeah, I just thought that was an interesting one to do. And then I also did an R Factor 2 stock car video at Texas with 2018 Monster Energy Cup mod, that's pretty fun. And I think that's about it. What about you, Shaun?
Me. I did some Nürburgring practice, and I turned my first lap. It was not record-setting of any kind. It wasn't even fast. I turned my first lap where I actually kind of knew where I was going the entire time. So that was kind of cool. A little small victory. Yay, yay. And then I had the Lionheart race at Watkins Glen on Wednesday. And this is a big deal. Sage Karam runs in that series. Sage Karam has the gift of sim racing. So as we sit here and we talk about real life versus, simulated life, this guy... Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This guy is just so fast. So fast. I mean, a couple of seconds a lap faster than me, which is, like, frustrating. But it's a league of just really, really fast people. Everybody in there is really fast, and it's a little humbling. It's fixed setup, thank God, so I don't have to worry about that aspect. I just have to put in the time and laps. Anyway, Watkins Glen is I think a lot of people love Watkins Glen because it's really fast, and it's fun to drive. But in close quarters, it's a really tough track. It's so easy to make a mistake with another car at Watkins Glen. It begs you to go too wide into places that you shouldn't, but it looks like you should be able to make it, but it just rarely works out. Anyway, everything went wrong.
That track is so flowing and it has such a fast flow to that track that it's really hard to make inroads on somebody when they're even just slightly slower than you.
Even giving way can be a challenge there because, like you said, everybody's so in their groove that if anything changes, it just goes to hell quickly. Anyway, I didn't qualify because my internet went out right before the race. I've been still having internet issues of sorts. And then I didn't qualify, so I started 39th of 40 cars. 40-car grid at Watkins Glen in the IndyCar.
Wow.
And I was actually happy with that because it meant that my pit stall would be one of the first pit stalls. And it also meant that with the expected carnage to come, I could just sit back and I'd be under no pressure from behind. So anyway, that's what I did. Anyway,
It's an important life lesson, by the way. No pressure from behind.
No pressure from behind. No one likes pressure from behind, man. That's why you should always sit with the wall to your back.
That's right.
So I had a very interesting race. I drove very well for myself, I think. And then I still made a few mistakes because racing's difficult. But the huge leap that I think I made this week is I finished a very long race, too. It was like almost an hour and a half, I think. And I made a handful of mistakes, and I didn't curse even once. But even more importantly than the actual swearing, here's the part that I'm most impressed about. I didn't get angry once. Because people who watch me race know that if I make a mistake, I might hold a grudge against myself for 2-3 laps sometimes. I mean, I might even be like still cursing and swearing and going on and on about it 3 laps later. Every time I made a mistake, I had my head clear by the next corner. So that was a nice, impressive leap. I mean, these are both things that I've done in the past, not like, but it's nice to see me keeping my composure during a race. Important race finish.
Oh, Shaun's growing.
21st. Made really. Oh, and the whole thing's aired on Global Sim Racing Channel. So I have like Richie Hearn in the booth and all the guys from GSRC. It's on iRacing Esport Network because it's kind of a big deal league. And I go into the pits and I completely overshoot my pits. And then I back up and they're like, "You're too far right." And I'm like, "Oh." And then I back up some more and try to correct it. And I think I pulled too far. Anyway, I lost 11 seconds in the pit and went from what would have been a 16th or so finish position and dropped back to 21st. Finished right behind my teammate, John Hill. Actually, no, I finished behind the series director. John Hill passed George Alonso.
I saw that.
At the very Alonso, right at the very last second, and I tried to get him too. And anyway, he was sandwiched by SImpit cars. It was a really fun race. I had a blast. It's such a great league, Lionheart Racing. So that was my week in racing, and then beyond that, I think before we get on to the news, I want to make a couple of announcements. Number one, probably now is a good time. I notice I don't want to even blame Billy and Brandon for this. I have been having some audio sync issues that I did not know about. I did a test this morning. Everything was fine, but I don't know. So anybody out there in audience land, if you can let us know what you see and hear and which direction, if it's out of sync, which way. Beyond that, I will not be here next Friday, so I think officially we don't have a Beyond the Sim next Friday. However, Billy Strange might, I'm not putting any weight on his shoulder, he might do something at Billy Strange Racing, but you're going to have to tune in over there, I think, or at least follow Billy on his Discord channel, perhaps, and he'll let you know if he's going to do anything. But I will not be here Friday for a Beyond the Sim right here.
It'll depend on if anything exciting happens next week and how motivated I am to try and do a show all on my own. So we'll see.
We'll see. And also, I will not be here for Monday and Wednesday's pit stop. I'm out of town from, tomorrow at 4 a.m. until next Saturday. So, anyway, long trip for me, but, and it came, I forgot I had it even on the calendar. So sorry about the short notice on that, everybody. Beyond that, I think that's it. Oh, Brandon.
Beyond.
Yes, sir.
Did you have any announcements?
I did. I wasn't exactly sure where we were going to fit it in. I was waiting for a nice natural segue.
For those that are just listening, for those that are just listening, Shaun has this very just, excuse me. Just, it has that look just like, head slightly down, tip to the left, kind of, furrowed brow, and just like, excuse me, did you have anything to say? What do you have to say for yourself?
I feel like I'm in trouble now. Oh, man. I won't be here next week either. I've got to go visit some family over on the other side of the state. So, unfortunately, that coincides with next weekend. And then after that, we get to go visit family and in-laws and such in Tennessee. So I'll be gone for a few weeks. So I'm going to be gone. Tennessee.
Oh, Tennessee. That's right. On my end, it sounded like in the sea. I'm like, that's an interesting place to go.
With SpongeBob?
Yeah, that's right.
There's a pineapple.
So, yeah, we're gonna go see if we can talk to the whales and,
Yeah,
but,
thank you.
Oh, man. So, yeah, so we've got a few weeks of that. And then I'm actually going to have to be an adult here pretty soon. And I know, Shaun, for me, it's always been about the passion of this. And when the show idea came up and, talking to Billy and Shaun about, hey, we should really do this. And, we're missing a good news and platform of information for sim racing beyond just the entertainment side of things. It was never a long-term thing. And I was always just kind of honored that you guys included me anyway. But yes, so I'm gonna have to go back to work soon, or have the opportunity to. I know it sucks being a grown-up.
Now, most jobs include Fridays, right?
Most jobs do include Fridays, especially my normal line of work. So the reality is that 99% of the time, we do a lot of work when the sun's shining and not so much when it's snowing and the ground's frozen. For those don't know, I'm a heavy equipment operator by trade. So, when the good weather's here, we're lucky if it's just 5 days a week. It's usually 6 or 7 and 10 or 12-hour days. And so, yeah, I probably won't be around this summer. Hopefully I'll get popped in every once in a while, but, we'll just have to play it by ear and see. But I know this show is in capable hands. I think you guys can do a great job. And, so I'll be around from time to time.
So we have to carry on without you in your honor.
Yeah, and I'll still do as much as I can behind the scenes, try and set up guests and, put topics out there for you guys to talk about. And by all means, if people have stuff, they can contact me via either Shaun or Billy's Discord. My email is there if you guys want to email me any questions or topics or guests or anything.
Speaking of lined up guests, that was a doozy you lined up last week, huh?
I think it was more than entertaining. Everybody seemed to love the show. I haven't heard a single negative word. James was fantastic. He actually, I've been trying to kind of be thankful for him appearing on the show, being around his streams and stuff, and had me on his stream last night. Not in an official format like this, but had me in some of his races, and it's been a good time. Good community over there, and I'm very thankful that he agreed to be on the show. Yeah, looking forward to seeing what we can get set up in the future.
Awesome.
One more thing.
Oh.
We are now on iTunes.
Thank you. Oh, how did I forget that?
So I got SoundCloud and iTunes now. It's going to be a few weeks before the show catches up because I can't not have the podcast episodes in order. So the most current podcast won't be for a while. It's still going to take me because it's a lengthy process that I have to go to get the old episodes. It's just going to take a while. So anyway, it's going to be, iTunes is already out. It's got the first 5 episodes, and I'm slowly going through and uploading those, and it'll probably take me 2 or 3 weeks to get so where we're caught up, where the episode that we're currently doing, not this one, but in 3 weeks, that current episode will go up in, like a day or 2. So yeah, that's pretty exciting. My next step is to get it on Stitcher and any other podcast services I can get it onto, so people can listen to it on the go if they don't want to listen to it on YouTube or don't have time. And yeah, if you guys have Q&A, go ahead and throw them in because we're going to go and shift to the news.
Oh, it's news time. Wow. Hey, we got there.
And I did want to say, before we do the news, DJ, and there's been some discussion as far as people streaming at the same time. And I know you guys fight this all the time, right, as content creators. James is great. We love him. He's got every right to be live as same as we do. There's no animosity or anything there. So obviously he's got a time zone difference, and if he waited until we were done or vice versa, it would just be hard to coordinate all that and stuff. So
well, no, I have to confess, I don't check anybody else's schedule. If I feel like going live, I go live. I'm not looking around.
Yeah.
Yep. So I don't think anybody's doing it with intentions.
Yeah. And to that point, it makes me really grateful for everybody that's here, for being here, right? Because you have options, and for choosing to come and listen to us and our notions. It's fantastic.
Are going on and on about things.
Exactly. So speaking of that, what do we got?
Let's move on to that news.
All right. So I mentioned on Wednesday's show, didn't I? I think I mentioned that Monte Carlo had just come out. So we've got that rollout release of Dirt Rally 2. And this is a big deal because this was the first time you're going to see snow, ice, all that kind of terrain. I have not had a chance to try it yet with everything else I had going on this week. Either you guys, but it is big news because Dirt Rally 2 is certainly the talk of the town. When I look through our community, it seems like daily people are discussing Dirt Rally in various forms still.
I did run it, Brandon.
Yeah, I ran it too. Oh man, so I feel and understand the bitterness that people have because I've got a pretty decent setup and it's pretty mainstream. It's the Fanatic V2.5. I'd say my pedals are probably a little on the higher end of things, but it's like I struggled and fought to try and find some force feedback settings that I was happy with. And sure, it's a new title, so there's not a lot out there yet. Um, but it's frustrating that I was having to get in there and like force map things, and it wasn't seeing my pedals. And then I get in there and just with default setups, it was really numb and mushy off center. But then when you turn it, would like fall, the steering wheel would fall towards the turn, which kind of felt unnatural. And it honestly, it came across as a game because when I fired it up, I thought, you know what? Okay, if it's not working this way, I'm going to get out the Xbox controller and try it with a gamepad. And it worked perfect. Felt like a game. Felt like something that if I fired it up on a console was right at home, from my console racing days. And I was like,
That's interesting because my force feedback feels nothing like that.
Yeah, and see, that's what I was kind of thinking. Okay, people have had good force feedback, interactions with this game. I'm having an issue. It seems like it's all over the board, I guess is my point. That it's not kind of standardized, at least from what I've been reading.
Well, I don't think that it's good. But
Agreed.
There's a weight in the wheel, at least when I go turn it, it gets heavier. There's no detail, there's nothing like that. No matter what you mess with in there, there's stuff that is not in that title for the force feedback. So mine is just the stock setup. I've tried a bunch of different stuff. Turn it up, turn it down, mess with all these different things. It doesn't really make a big difference. I just found that I just kind of left it and then turned down how heavy I wanted the wheel. And it at least gives me a sensation of turning the wheel, because it's just wheel weight is what it feels like. I don't get the sensation where you get into the corner and then it just falls into the turn. It doesn't do that.
Yeah, and it may just be something on my end. It may be something that they have set up on this wheel, but it felt like I was holding a bag of sand. It was loose, loosely bagged, and then when I rotate it, it would just shift all the extra weight from one side to the other, and it was just heavy. There was nothing there. It just felt like weight shifting back and forth. So, but it was disappointing, and it made it come across, especially once I tried it and went back and forth between the gamepad and my wheel. It was like, okay, this feels like a game. Is it a fun game? Yeah, it was a blast. Beautiful and fun to drive, and the community events and leaderboard challenges, which Billy, I know you were having some fun with that, but it's a fun game. Sim, not so much to me.
But it came from Codemasters.
I would disagree that it's not a sim. I think in certain aspects it does. It is sim-like.
Can we call that Simcade?
Oh boy,
or is that a dead word?
Yeah.
Are we not allowed to say? Is that like? I think I got sued for saying
it's
Simcade.
Just everything's so broad. And first of all, thanks to Mike, a round of Dr. Pepper for the three of us. Thank you very much. And then also thanks to Dave, just a little for me to help keep the wheels turning. Keep up the good work. Thank you very much. This is where I think everybody, including myself, has a different definition of what sim means to them. And it was interesting because I was talking with Heiko, one of the Patreon members, last night, and sim to him means something a little different than it does to me. And whenever I think of a sim title, no sim does everything. So if I started picking things apart, everything's Simcade.
True.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
So I don't assigning something Simcade feels weird to me just because it's such an ambiguous, nebulous kind of term we use. So I think of the thing that is most important to me, and it's the way the car handles. So if the car handles the way I believe it should, and other things like I can make adjustments to it I can hold a somewhat realistic race per se, then that's sim to me. But if, other people are like, well, if it doesn't have the correct damage model, it's not sim. If it doesn't have day to night transition, it's not a sim. If it doesn't have weather, it's not a sim. If it, doesn't have tire blocks, it's not a sim. So
Yeah.
it just depends on what everybody's definition of sim is. My experience is different from everybody else's in the fact that there are just different things that I look for. And when somebody says something's not a sim, I sit there and go, well, to me, it's a sim. But that I understand where that other person is coming from. When you say, it just feels like a good game, I get it. Because I think we just end up looking for those differences, or we have those differences of opinion of the things we're looking for.
Yeah. And I think, sorry, Shaun, and
No,
get
go
this
for
in
it.
and
Go
then
for it,
give
Brandon.
me your input. But I think for me is when I feel like something is a sim, because that's all it's really about, right? Is an impression that it gives you. Like what you were saying, Billy, it didn't, with the force feedback it was giving me and the way my wheel was interacting with, like somebody said in chat, the racing game, the way it was interacting with the racing game, it didn't convince me that it was a simulation with the way it was set up. So, but that being said, when it made sense when I was playing on a gamepad, it's like, okay, this is how it should drive on a gamepad. So that's kind of what broke it for me in that regard. Maybe when I can, for immersion, get VR and get my wheel set up properly, and maybe there's a little more detail that communicates to me that yes, you're actually manipulating a car, even if it is digitally. It will be more of a quote unquote sim, or more simulation aspect of a game. But yeah, it's great, and I'm still gonna buy Monte Carlo just because it's so much fun. It's a good time.
So
yeah, I ended up. Go ahead.
the thing I wonder and think about, and I've thought about this in Assetto Corsa, but when they have a calendared rollout thing where they've committed to dates for future expansions of sorts, and sometimes I wonder, like, I don't know, because I'm not there. I'm not a fly at the wall on the wall at their marketing, meetings and whatnot. But, sometimes I wonder, is some of it done to delay production of content because we can only get so much in by our deadline for release date? So let's push back certain features. Is it purely to be able to have some DLC for the financial aspects, or do they kind of work together and combine? But then, do those future promises end up getting in the way of things that, like, I mean, when I think about this game and I think about how beloved it is on one hand and how despised it is on the other hand for some things that are very fixable. And it's like, I'd hate to think that this brought back from the previous version, Monte Carlo, delayed getting good force feedback, good road feel, or VR support, or any of the other, things that people are really wanting and demanding when you have a really good, strong community. And this is the type of game to me where if this game were fixed, this could be one of those games that people put up on one of those plateaus and be like, hey, when it comes to rally, nothing's ever been better than Dirt Rally 2.0.
It's a Project Cars 2 problem.
Yeah. Yes, it could be. It should be. It's right there. All you have to do is maybe hire a couple more people, focus energy, listen to the community, and you're there. And when people always want to bring up Richard Burns' Rally as the pinnacle of sim racing, rally car driving, it's like, well, no offense to Richard Burns' Rally. I love it. But there's no reason an old title should be even mentionable in those words in 2019. And so it's like, it's pretty easy to kick them off that podium if you fix those small issues that we're talking about, in my thinking.
Well, and to your first couple points is yes and yes. It's a smart marketing. I think it's a smart marketing move because it keeps Dirt Rally 2.0 in the conversation, right? So we, every 2 weeks we talk about Dirt Rally 2.0 again. It's not wait 3 months, DLC, then gone again. So, and I don't mind it. I think the problem people have is it feels a little piecemealed out, right? And especially when we're talking about Monte Carlo, that was in the original game. So if you had never played Dirt Rally, this is kind of like, this is a stinger because you just, I had this before. This should have been the base of the game for 2.0. You know, maybe somebody doesn't feel like that if they didn't play the original Dirt Rally, and I understand that. But coming from my perspective, I did. And so while I appreciate the reskin, let's call it what it is, it's a reskin with a couple little physics changes. It should have been in the base. And I think that's the frustrating part. And then to your second, or which was actually your first point, but I think it does hamper making fixes. The sound glitch is still there. We saw that in Gamer Muscle stream yesterday and the day before.
I had that issue as well.
See, and I've never had it. So, you know, cross my fingers. But I'm, I guess, the fortunate few that I haven't had that sound glitch. The force feedback, I don't care what anybody says, needs fixing. It's funny, they made that post where, like, some people really love it. I'm like, and those people are? So, and not being like, and I guess that's me looking out for the people that are really into force feedback. Again, I am not a super big stickler on force feedback, but I understand the people that are really into force feedbacks that have, you know, the direct drive wheels, have all the adjustability, and even the people that just have consumer wheels that want to feel the detail in the road. So I advocate for those people. Now, do I need it? Meh. I would like it, but I don't need it. But I advocate for those people because it should be in there.
Have either of you played it on a controller? I mean,
I have. I've played it on a gamepad. Brandon did too.
And?
Feels fine.
Yeah. I think, well, because you're not expecting that feedback, right? So I think it's a different experience at that point.
How hard is it to drive, I guess, is what I meant. Can you drive competently?
For me personally, it's better, just because, you know, if my force feedback's broken or whatever my issue is, I didn't have time to fix it, obviously, or dig that deep into it. I had too much going on, but it was easier, better, and more intuitive, as odd as that sounds for me, with the gamepad, to just pick up and go, okay, this is how a gamepad would feel playing this game. And so I don't know if at that point, maybe like when you lost force feedback at Le Mans, Billy, you know, maybe you fall back on other senses and go, okay, the car is rotating this way. I'm listening to the tires in a different way, you know, so maybe I'm compensating for that. But yeah, it was a pleasurable experience and fun to do. You know, if you can drive a car on a gamepad and then you can enjoy that, Dirt Rally 2.0 is a blast with a gamepad.
Yeah, so a gamepad is fine. I'm a little smoother with the wheel, but I'm not that much slower with the gamepad. The gamepad allows you to flick the car in the turn easier, in my experience.
Yeah, I was going to say lock to lock, it's so fast.
Yeah, but I'm smoother. And Dirt Rally 2.0 does require you to be fairly smooth, especially so getting to the Monte Carlo section. It's a blast. The long stage, and especially going downhill. Man, I did it with a bunch of different cars. I ended up, to my surprise, it's probably shattered now, but at the time I was top of the leaderboard with some of the groups of cars. I was like, holy crap. The difference from snow to ice to tarmac makes sense. And it's a nice, I mean, when you hit the ice, you can feel, you know, your wheel get light, and then you can feel you lose traction. So when you're on the gas, you know, you're full throttle and you hit that ice, the tires spin up and you start going sideways. It's a really cool sensation that it delivers. So understand that I think they did a good job. I think it comes across well. I think the only problem is, again, it should have been in the base game. This is a reskin. There's no new stages.
Right.
Nothing. But it was fun. I mean, we were, there was a handful of us going back and forth on the leaderboards. Gamer Muscle and I went back and forth on the leaderboards with a couple of his people in his chat on one of his live streams, or a couple of his live streams. So it's fun. I had a good time running it. Is it worth the price? If you've driven it in, you know, the original, probably not. Maybe you can find the DLC on sale real cheap and then get it. It's so hard because I like it, but justifying its cost is kind of difficult for me.
in the world of Madden, I always use Madden as my example. When I say Madden, I mean a game known for coming out annually. So Madden 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. I don't know where 11 went. But my brother, as a gamer, a more general gamer, he's not a sim racer. When it comes to games, my brother is kind of known for playing last year's version because he'll go get it for, you know, he'll buy it used even or a brand new discounted copy. Sure. And he'll usually get all the DLC, all the patches and everything because by the time he buys it,
the Game of the Year edition.
Yeah. And they pulled the plug on development at this point because they've already released the newest version. Are we getting there with certain titles in sim racing? Or because you know damn well, I mean, like right now we can pull up all sorts of deals for Dirt Rally. So Dirt Rally 2.0 on release day, we know it's going to be at this price. But if it's like a Madden type title, well, we also know in 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 18 months, and so on, we'll keep seeing various discount levels on titles. I don't know.
Sure. I mean, it's kind of been that way for a while. If you depending on how serious of a simulation you're talking about, but the F1 series has been doing that, right?
Yeah.
We could if you go back in time, it was much more prevalent, especially when there was a time in a period where racing games were really huge and you had all these different licenses happening. So the NASCAR license, you know, and maybe somebody that's really into NASCAR, they don't get iRacing. The Heat series is a good example of that, right? So maybe they don't get Heat 3, they get Heat 2, which I would say is a better game. So yeah, I don't see why our neck of the woods would be any different.
I think about Codemaster. Sorry, Brandon. If I were a general consumer on F1 2000, I'll just call it. I estimate I would own 4 copies. I would have first one, second one, and then I would have probably bought like maybe 15, and then I would have bought the last one for sure because of all the esport noise that surrounded it. So yeah, I think I probably would have bought 4 versions of it, but I would have skipped a couple too. That would have been 2 or 3 missing.
Right? You have the enthusiast that's hardcore into it, and then you have the people that will just enjoy racing, period. And those are the ones that'll kind of bounce in and out and say, that one's not different enough.
Right.
I'll wait till the next one.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's something all parties should actually keep in mind.
Yeah.
All right.
I will say that I did not pay full price. I found it on discount, and I when I think about it and the issues that it had out of the gate, or has out of the gate, and the reskinning of the content and the lack of some of the features that the original Dirt Rally had, I probably, if I would have paid full whack for it, 60 or 80 or however much the limited edition is, if I would have paid full crack for it, I'd probably be pretty upset.
Yeah, that just depends on what you're looking for, and I think a lot of it depends on, did you play the first one? So
yeah.
With that said, on the general gaming world, I am getting stacks and stacks of $20 crappy games that I just play one day and throw away.
Well, there you go.
They are stacking up. All right, you want to get us along on the news? The next one's all you, Billy. This is you. This is your world.
Well, yeah, let's move on to iRacing. Well, we're gonna hold off on. We'll touch on the World of Outlaws thing for the esports section, but one of the more fun cars on the oval side in iRacing, I feel like, is the modifieds. And it's not very popular, but it does have a definite dedicated fan base. And they put a post out the other day. It looks like they're scanning a new modified. This is asphalt, not dirt. But yeah, that's pretty exciting.
Those cars are cool. I love those cars because when you get in them, it's just kind of a freaky car. Like you can drive a lot of cars and barely notice a difference in what you've gotten in or out of, or all open wheel cars even kind of look the same once you're in them. You get in this thing and you're like, where am I?
Well, it kind of, for me, it's kind of like a sprint car. There's not a whole lot of BS to the thing. You know, it's a motor, and then you've got tires and wheels, a transmission, and then you've got this. You have minimal body work, and so strap in and go. And these, if you haven't run these cars, I should say this, I haven't run them in about a season, but I was holding some races, and we had a lot of fun racing. I mean, we did quite a long race at Lanier. That was actually pretty cool because the tires started to wear, and it really made you change your line, and that was a lot of fun. We had some good races, so I'm excited for this. This is right up in my wheelhouse. I like this.
I wonder what they're going to do with all the sponsors. Sponsor rules and what you can put on your car and decals, these are all changing things. And, it's like,
Right.
The modified, you don't have to worry about Chevy or, I'm assuming that's a Chevy engine in this thing. But like, you're not stepping on, manufacturer's toes building one of these, so to speak. But the sponsors on it, you never know. But I don't know. It's really weird because this is one of those deals like when they scanned the street stock, that Camaro. That was Dale Earnhardt's personal car that they scanned. So the licensing came via that direction, I believe, not like the normal, I want to put a new Ferrari 360 in where you need Ferraris, Anyway, this is cool. I like when they get one from a real team like this too, and you get the scan. Because looking at this picture, what I like also is how cool the scan is, the way it actually picks up all the decals perfectly as well.
Right. Yep, and then the art team will go in there and fix all that. So I'm excited for it. It may not be a super popular car in the series, but from what I mean, I don't know why else you would post this and have that scan of the car if it's not coming. So I'm hoping so, at least.
Wait, it's not April 1st yet, right?
Yeah, right.
Ooh.
I'm
Oh, yeah.
not getting April Fooled. Like,
On guard. Yeah, I forgot.
yeah.
Jeez. All right.
So that's that part.
That's cool. Wednesday, I had a kind of an embarrassing moment that actually, Billy, you kind of bailed me out on Wednesday during the pit stop. Somebody had asked, hey, is that Riza pack out? And for some reason, I just completely brain farted, and I was like, yeah, I think it came out. But meanwhile, I've been talking about it for weeks because we're all pretty excited about it. But it did officially come out. So I have been, it hadn't come out yet Wednesday. It just came out, today, right?
You were predicting.
Yeah, I knew it was coming. I knew it was on. No,
it was yesterday or late yesterday,
Yeah.
today, something like that.
So we're looking at $22, $22.22 on the Steam store. And this is a really anticipated pack. I mean, we talk about the Riza guys. We talk about Automobilista and how these guys have been kind of the masters of the modding teams working with the R-Factor engine. And this is sort of the beginning of a whole new phase to an extent. And doing it very in conjunction with Studio 397 or R-Factor 2 versus being completely a satellite company. It seems like they're very in cahoots on this. But some cool content. And, I think we've discussed Automobilista and its content and how that helps or harms the sim when it comes to getting the word out or having massive sales, considering how good it is. But we are talking about things like Imola, one of my favorite tracks. VIR, another great track. A handful of different cars, including that Puma. Isn't that the Puma there, the one in the middle? And some of those Brazilian, or no, is it? Yeah, Brazilian? South American. Brazilian, yeah. Marquis.
Yeah.
So this is a big deal. A lot of people have been waiting on this one. I haven't tried it yet. I definitely will have to for sure. Have you guys tried it yet?
I mean, I have that in Automobilista. I haven't had a chance to try an R-Factor 2 yet. Just depends on, I think the main draw is the tracks.
Yeah.
Depends on, they are some fun. There are some fun cars in that pack. Just depends on how into kind of, what is it? The MCR or whatever, that little prototype, almost like a radical looking.
Yes.
It's not radical, but it's a little more swoopy looking car.
Yeah, it resembles it though.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fun car. Most of them are fun. So, yeah, I'm going to try it. I don't anticipate it having like having a huge change from Automobilista. At least I hope not. I heard there was a few little problems, but overall it seems like the pack, for those people that have bought it, is fairly well received. Hopefully they can get the minor issues worked out.
Yeah, I like that open cockpit one, the, as you put it, like a radical type car. To me, like Can-Am was one of my favorite eras of racing. So those are like the modern Can-Am cars, essentially, in a weird way.
They just got they got a little tiny engine in them.
Yeah, a little baby.
They don't weigh anything, and they've got a smaller engine in them. So, but they're fun.
It would be interesting to me to see what could happen if REITs started bringing more of their AMS content to R Factor 2 and Super Truck. But yeah, so I think it could, overcome some of the shortcomings that AMS has seemed to have, and if you kind of combine those, build with the strengths that R Factor 2 has, hypothetically, that could make a fantastic sim, in my opinion.
Sure. Well, and the other thing is, if the guys from Automobilista, and we know the quality of their work, if they become one of those content creators for R Factor 2, then what we're at is that beginning point where R Factor, and I always said that about R Factor 1. It took so long for that game to really catch up to itself, where you had a platform that was so much better than the content they had. And I feel the same thing about R Factor 2. It's like, here's this great platform. It's just been kind of content short, attention short.
Right.
And it seems that it's really been on a nice accelerated curve of growth. And if these guys are now in, who knows, maybe Studio 397 hands something off to them. And it's like, hey, we got this licensing, but we're too backed up. Maybe you want to do it for us. This could be the beginning of something really good, especially if the guys at REITs stepped out of their South American, centric ways. Maybe they get access to some other content, even like the Formula V trainer. That's a very mainstream
to be fair,
car.
They unofficially step outside their boundaries because they have a V8 supercar. It's just not called a V8 Super. They have F1, but it's obviously not F1. Please don't. F1, please don't get them. So, yeah, they have the super trucks in there. So they obviously have chops to get content out. So hopefully this goes over good. Hopefully it's a beneficial partnership. And this goes well.
Awesome. All right, so we talked about Madden, right? I mentioned Madden. So here we are at the big announcement. No offense to Formula One, but defeat your rivals. Yeah, the Madden of sim racing. I can't even apologize for that. Defeat your rivals in F1 2019. I think the biggest news, not that it was eminently coming, the news is that it's actually coming fairly soon. We're looking at Friday, the 28th of June, the release date for F1 2019, which is going to be the earliest in the year they've ever put out the same year title. And that's I think the other difference. Doesn't Madden usually come out like before the season begins, or, kind of right timed with it? F1 2019 only comes out almost when the F1 season's over. So at least we're getting it in June with enough time to go through about 2/3 of the season with the real life guys, which is, honestly, when I think of F1 2019, its biggest appeal to me is that if I'm watching Bahrain, that I can then go drive that as close as you're going to get combination with the same liveries, same, sponsors on the track, exact same layout, all that kind of stuff. And it's really the only way you're going to get that in the Formula One world. And, they are the king when it comes to racing. Formula One is the king of all motor racing. So, that of your general public that watched it on Sunday want to drive it on Monday instead of buy it. That's the title. So this is great and big deal, and, coming out on all those platforms. And I also wonder if they didn't expedite it, did the whole F1 Esport affiliation make them kind of get on it a lot quicker than they normally would have? They have a lot more going on and a lot more people.
That's possible.
They have obligations. They didn't have obligations before. Their only obligation was to us, the sim racing crowd. They'd make money when they sold it. But now with their affiliations with the likes of a Formula One, with that might come new obligations for timelines, and you know, Formula One wants to see that title out in a reasonable era to market their product. So anyway, yeah.
Yep, we'll see how this turns out. Hopefully, well, I don't know. I've you mentioned Madden. I feel like that. I've realized that I'm just not super into the modern F1 cars. I've forced myself to try and like it.
Sorry.
It's just not. Wow. It's just not my thing. So we'll see. I don't know if I'm going to get this, purchase it when it comes out.
But it'll be the new liveries.
Yeah, yay.
Okay, I'm with you there. All right, next up, and then I'm actually gonna hand this over to you guys, and because I haven't watched it. Oh, now all my sound's going.
Oh, I can hear it.
Next up is the beginning of the battle for $25,000. So we had the opener at Volusia Speedway, and this is an iRacing and the Outlaw Sprint cars. The esport teams of that now too, because we saw a handful of real life drivers and teams getting involved and kind of pulling things together. No official draft like the what we're seeing all over sim racing right now, but a lot of these drivers are sponsored or at least affiliated with real teams like Swindell or what was that other one? Dirt Cushion, something like that.
There's actually quite a few.
Casey Kane, Tony Stewart.
Yeah.
Yep. The Kensers. You got a lot of open wheel guys involved, which is pretty cool.
So the question I had and speculated and why I wanted to watch the race is, with the beginning of a new championship on the dirt side of things, the dirt oval side of things in iRacing, two things come to mind. Number one, how was the show, so to speak? And number two, how did the drivers do?
Want to go first, Brandon?
Sure. I'll go ahead and go first. Okay. So the way I looked at it, I mean, I've driven some dirt sprint car stuff. Obviously, I'm not a professional like Billy. So I look at it from a standpoint of, a fan point of view, from somebody in the stands that is there for the show of it. It's awesome being able to drive those cars in the sim, but I'm not the greatest at it. Right, Shaun? So for me, I looked at it when I tuned into that. It was more for the entertainment side, right? And can they put on a good show? We kind of have seen in the past where, I don't know if it was just the way the sim is built or the way the tracks are set up, but getting good, clean racing seemed difficult, or maybe it was just the way people were approaching it. But for this event, the racing was really good, in my opinion. Sure, there was a few guys that had their issues, but you see that in real life when I watch a World of Outlaws highlight film on YouTube of a event from a past weekend or whatever. You see that anyway, right? The main guys having some sort of problem, or you go, wow, why did they do that? You wouldn't expect that from a pro driver, and you had some of that here, which for me, at my skill set, makes it relatable. I go, hey, those guys are having issues too. So it's not just me when I get in this thing, that it happens to everybody. From a spectator point of view, it was put on really well. The announcing was good, in my opinion. The presentation, as far as the camera work and stuff, and they had it was good racing. There was guys using different lines. There was guys, holding the cars down low. I mean, there was a lot of times in turn 3 and 4, they were 3 wide, and in a 410, I have a hard enough time myself personally staying 1 wide. So let alone watching these guys go 3 wide through the corner. You could see the difference in cornering speed. Somebody on the inside has a much shorter route around the corner, much less distance to travel. You'd see them go through it slower, but the guy on the outside would have to go further around, but he's going way faster. It looked like a World of Outlaws event to me. So from that aspect, as far as an esport thing, it was a fantastic show. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed every aspect as far as somebody that's watching the show, in my opinion, would need out of it. Um, I'm kind of curious, Billy, what you think as far as being a professional sprint car driver, how the event looked from your side of the fence.
So I had my wife sit down and watch it with me because she raced sprint cars too. So we both sat down and watched it. And the last year I was not impressed. Let's just say that. I thought the quality of driving was not good. And I think they did much better this time around. I think, and that's due to the process that they used for getting people into the Pro Series this time around versus last time around. I think they weeded out all the Yahoo drivers. I mean, there were guys in there that were running, that were testing it with me when we were doing the testing for the dirt stuff. There were guys that are racing now that were in there, and I know those guys are good. So in that respect, I thought they did really well. It was interesting watching and listening to my wife's reaction, because she doesn't do sim racing, none of that. So she thought it looked cool. She thought every once in a while the commentary was a little off. They either didn't explain things well, or and then you're talking like small little parts. Or they'd say like, packing the right rear full of mud, bending in the mud cover or whatever. It's kind of like, that doesn't happen. So she's like, can that really happen? And well, no. So there's a couple of those moments, but she thought it was okay. I actually thought it was pretty good. I thought they did a really good job of keeping the show rolling quickly, which is what you need. And those short races, I've kind of come to think that these short races are better for viewing, because GT Sport had short races. F1 2018 had short races. There weren't really long races. And I find myself, although I enjoy driving in long races, when I don't have a personal investment in the people that are driving, the longer races seem to not hold my attention, like the NASCAR, the peak antifreeze. I enjoy watching those races, but I'd much rather watch a recap, because I have no investment in the people that are driving. Right. Where I'll watch a cup race on Sunday if I like the track. I'll watch it basically all day, or at least have it on while I'm doing something else. So I think a shorter format, these quick heat races, they had 2 what they call consolation or B mains. They were actually really exciting. The guy, the last year's champ, and I knew I was going to forget his name. I want to say Tim, and I don't think that's right.
The guy from Australia, right?
Yeah, the white 98 car.
Yeah.
Is that Tim Ryan?
So he got hosed. He got
Tim
hosed
Ryan.
in his heat race. Tim Ryan. I was right.
Yes,
Tim.
yes.
Okay, so he got hosed in his heat race. They were running. They were kind of close to not transferring to the main.
Yeah, I had that
got
one.
together and got junked. So he had to start in the very back of his B main, and he came from 9th. Was it
dead
9th or
last?
10th?
I think it was
dead last in his B main, and ran all the way to the front and transferred. Like it was really exciting. Like watching him come from the back. And the thing that I think helped that is, while there were guys making mistakes, I can't say that it really looked any different from, on my perspective, guys at the track making mistakes. I've seen guys make mistakes like that they were making. So the quality of driver, I think, really helped. I think the shorter races helped. Anyway, he went to the front. It was cool. And then when they went to the main event, yeah, Alex took off. It was Alex that won, right? Bergeron? Isn't that correct?
I believe so. Yeah, he checked out.
He checked out. He was in another league. He had it figured out. But I tell you what, the racing from 2nd till about 7th-ish, they were all in these huge packs going 3 wide and dicing. It was really a good show. Very minimal yellows. I mean, they don't have yellows in the heats or the consolation races. But there was a yellow in the main? Was there even a yellow in the main? I don't remember now.
I don't remember.
There might have been one. I don't recall now. That's how, if there was, that's how little of an impact it had. I thought it was good. I thought it was a great way to debut and showcase what it should be. Not like last year. I thought last year was catastrophically terrible. So they've made some changes to the dirt, and I think the setups have gotten better. I think the cars have gotten better. The dirt's gotten better. So I did that sprint car race. I think overall right now, the dirt package, at least for the sprint cars, is pretty good. And they made it enticing to want to participate rather than to go, look at all these guys. They can't even hold it together for 2 laps without having a yellow. So I was impressed. I mean, they were running right against the fence, right around the bottom. They had a couple guys making it work through the center of the corner. I don't know. I thought it was good.
And I do want to give, to that last point that you just made there, Billy, I want to give iRacing credit, because even from just watching that stream, you could tell off of 4, there was a slick spot that a couple guys, when they'd get in it, would go up and scrub the wall, just like you see sometimes in real life. And going into 1, there was a massive hole that formed. You couldn't see it, unfortunately, but you could see the cars react to it. And the biggest thing was you could see the drivers having to actually drive around that and anticipate that, and either change up their lines or change up their entry depending on what traffic they had and how things were working. So it was pretty cool to watch, to see it kind of change throughout the course of the event.
To clarify, I know what you mean by hole, but it wasn't technically a hole. How the dirt forms, because that's not technically in there yet. And thank you, Brandon and Andy. They had 1 yellow. So it's the way the dirt can get pushed around. And so it's actually like this hump that forms against the fence going into the corner. And it creates like it's like a hole, but it's not. It's more of, they don't technically have ruts yet in iRacing. So I didn't want somebody to go, they don't have holes. And
like a jump or something.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And anybody that's raced on it would know what you mean. But it gets these waves. Like I was actually getting in at Charlotte, going down the back straightaway into 3. It's you could feel the car start to like hit these waves, and it would kind of which I don't know if it happens to that severity, but I've raced on tracks that have had a little bit of that, and you hear, it's the coolest thing when you're foot to the floor and you hear that the engine groan as it grabs traction when it compresses, and then when it releases over a rise, and everything it does this. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, it was neat to see, just from the standpoint of, I think it was one of the heat races, and I don't know who the racer was, but somebody was trying, full send mode, trying to make qualification and the cutoff for who gets into the big show. And, he goes in there, and you can just see him just drive harder than I had seen anybody drive into that thing the whole event. Hits that, sails it into 1. The car's totally upset, ends up collecting the wall, and it just ruins his night. I think it was a week or 2 ago, I watched a World of Outlaws highlight film from, I think it was Stockton or Sacramento, somewhere there. And the track just developed this nasty, this case, it was a hole on the exit of turn 4. And I don't remember who the driver was, but it was a big name. Up near the front, sails it in there, kind of gets off his line, sends his car into the hole. Well, he hits the hole so hard, it blows his rear tire and just shreds the thing. And it felt real
like Gravel or Stewart or one of those guys that did it.
Yeah. So it felt really similar to that. It was like, okay, this is cool. It was convincing that I was watching the real thing.
It was a good show. Sure, we could have liked more action up front, but I can't say it's dissimilar to anything else I've seen in real life. So
sure.
I thought they did good. If you're remotely interested, I'd give it a shot.
What I like watching about it, and I made the same comparison talking about the MX-5 earlier, but it's like, it looks just like a real race to me. So when I'm watching the race, my brain isn't sitting there going, oh, that looks so fake, or, oh, that's not the way it really works, or, oh, that's not the way the racing really is. Everything I'm watching looks very much like what I see in real life, and I love the whole inside-outside aspect of it, which I've experienced racing with you guys doing this, but it's like, that inside car getting, looking like he's ahead because the way around the corner is so short. But then he comes off the corner so slow, and then you see the guy on the outside just come roaring back, and lap after lap, they're actually virtually the same lap times completely opposite ways of doing it, and I'm watching that over and over and over again. The other thing,
credit to iRacing. Sorry, real quick. Credit to iRacing. They've gotten better with their track states, and that's what I think facilitated the racing in this. How good it was here.
Yep. And
that's important. That's the kind of stuff we've been begging for in sim racing, for a very long time, really. The other thing I like, and getting back to your point on the length of races and the keeping it going, anybody's gone to a local track, Friday night, Saturday night racing, whatever, it's really cool how fast they're moving through. It's a bunch of really quick races, and, they start off with some of the lower class stuff and usually work their way up, and in some cases you have 2 or 3 rounds of each as they go through the cycle, but it's like, it's constantly changing, and it's constantly, it's very exciting. It's hard to get bored at a local track watching that kind of racing where they're constantly changing the entertainment that's on the track that you're watching. And then next thing you know, it's the next white flag and the next checkered. Then bring out the next group, and a few laps later, white flag, so it's like always really super intense too. And then when you get those scenarios where you have the haves and the have-nots, well, you don't have to endure it that long. So if it is some guy who's running away from it, it's not like you have to sit there and watch him just beat up on everybody for 5 hours. Right. The other thing is, I'm always looking at how this translates into esport. And, I think of a lot of the esport that I've seen, this translates well, because to the uneducated eye, especially watching the cameras, it looks like there's always a fight for position going on. Always. And in the case of like road racing, you get many a time where a good battle might be a battle of the clock of 1 second. And maybe those cars are a full second apart, so you're not actually seeing them door-to-door, side, wheel-to-wheel racing, but they are very much in a heated battle because both of them know the exact gap between the cars. But to the viewer, it doesn't necessarily look all that exciting. Versus on this, you're just caught up in the fact that, oh my God, they're 2, they're 3, 4 wide, it's constant. It's really, really good entertainment, I think, looking at it.
So yeah, to kind of put a pin in it, I think that the first race was good. I hope that they can keep that success with the other tracks. I hope that they can all drive. I mean, there was some contact, but it wasn't anything out of the norm. There was some mistakes, but again, guys are trying hard. I don't think it was anything out of the norm. You kind of sat there and kind of like, oh, I probably wouldn't have done that move, but I've had that in the real world. So hopefully they'll keep this momentum going, and the World of Outlaws is happy with, their integration with the esport of it. And yeah, I hope it works out.
Yeah.
I hope it does well.
Yeah, likewise.
I agree. Keep up the good work, guys. We enjoyed it. So if they're out there.
Yeah, I'll watch next week. I'm gonna watch this coming week. So.
Awesome.
I did have a couple questions from chat that I wanted to get to. And I know we've kind of talked about this. It'll probably be different for everybody, depending on what you're looking for. But Dr. Respect asked, which do you prefer, Dirt Rally or Dirt Rally 2.0?
Oh, that was to Billy specific.
Oh, was it to Billy specific?
Yep.
Oh, is it?
Yep.
Okay.
Well, I would love to hear both of your opinions.
Aha!
And if anybody else has questions, go ahead and put them in chat for us. Man, can I just take both of them and kind of squish them together to get the best one?
Well, you'll have the same tracks, so sure.
Yeah, right. Give me the force feedback of at least of the original Dirt Rally, because that was decent. I do prefer the way the cars handle in this. They make more sense to me. I thought that because of some of the aero stuff and some of the tire stuff, especially on the tarmac, that was something I guess we didn't really touch on. I think the cars feel better on the tarmac, especially with the Monte Carlo Rally that came out. Is it perfect? No, but I think it's much better. So if I had to pick, I guess I would pick number 2. I just feel like it's driving wise, I enjoy it more. And I'm telling you what, whatever they did to capture the sense of speed for some of the faster rally cars is incredible. I don't know what it is, but man, when you are screaming a Group B car or one of the more modern cars, it's intense. And you've got to be on your game. I feel like I have to work the throttle, not more, but differently. And I like the way it feels more connected. The traction level and the tire spin feels more connected to my foot. Yeah, I guess I would begrudgingly jump on the 2.0 train, even though I think there's things that Dirt Rally, the original, did better.
Brandon?
Okay, fair enough. So for me, I think it boils down to probably two things. If you use a single screen or a non-VR user, 2.0. Especially if your particular device works well with the force feedback in its current state. But yeah, if you're used to playing on a single screen, ultra wide, whatever, definitely 2.0 looks better. It's serviceable the way it is, and especially if it works for you and in your device that you have. For me, being a VR guy, since the stages are pretty similar, it's a prettier game and it feels better to me, and it works with VR, so it's a more exciting experience.
Sure.
I'm an original Dirt Rally guy. Like, I'm optimistic for the future of Dirt Rally 2.0, but until it gets there, I think I would have more fun going back and playing on the original.
All right.
So, what about you, Shaun?
Since VR sucks and all VR drivers are slow, that doesn't matter to me too much.
Gaslighting everybody.
How about that? No, I'm just kidding. My answer is actually kind of funny. If we were talking about iRacing, Assetto Corsa, R Factor 2, consider games I call Sims, I would tell you flat out Dirt Rally 1, and because it comes down to what I feel in the wheel. On the flip side, if it's a Simcade title, well, now I want to be wowed by graphics. And I want a good driving experience to go along with graphics that blow away my friends when they come over. As a hardcore simmer, I'll turn graphics down to achieve frame rates that I want first. That's my primary goal, my primary need in a sim. In a Simcade, I need to be wowed by graphics. So I love Dirt Rally 2.0. I think it's really beautiful. I think they really did improve the look of the game. I'm optimistic, like you are, Brandon, for what they'll do. So that kind of gives me a little free will. Like, hey, you know what? I've been pretty happy with Codemasters products in general over the years. I can take a leap on this one because it does look great. Hopefully they'll fix some things. Otherwise, it'll be a shelved title, which I have many of. But I'll play it for a while. I'll enjoy it for a while. I'll make some runs at some leaderboards. So I think I'd take a chance, and I think I'd be Dirt Rally 2 for sure. And especially right now when graphics kind of made a good leap. You know, we'd been a little stagnant, but I feel like graphics are kind of right on. We're about to be wowed by graphics across the board, so I think some things are going to start looking fairly dated soon because of it. Because from what I'm seeing with just so many things going on, whether you're talking about like G-Sync, whether you're talking about different shaders, different tracings, different things, like the videos I'm seeing, I'm just like, oh wow, they're going to really push graphics another level to make all these new video cards obsolete.
You just reminded me of something. We've been reminded of one other thing too for news, and I completely forgot. Soul 1.1 came out for Assetto Corsa.
Oh my goodness.
Yep, you just reminded me of it, and you wouldn't know it unless you were in the race department forums and you got that notification for an update. So they've got some more tweaks to the shaders. They've got sparks and different night sky, more they did something with the night sky, and they also did something with twilight. So I did put it, I've got it all installed. I'm going to get ready to fire it up. I've actually got a race at Laguna Seca I'm going to do because they got the 8 hours this weekend. But yeah, so for those that have AC in the Soul mod, they've done 1.1, so go get that. And then Brandon's got.
Yeah, before we get to that, I want to kind of touch on something Shaun said real quick. And Shaun was talking about the title getting shown. And when we're talking about Dirt Rally earlier, and we had this talk and the features that I'll say it in my verbiage. The features that it's missing that were in Dirt Rally, the original Dirt Rally. So basically working force feedback and VR. To me, it starts bordering on the edge of, okay, what differentiates it from the WRC franchise at that point? Because if it's, well, before WRC graphically, I think was better looking than Dirt Rally, And Billy, I think you like the WRC franchise, correct? It drives good. It's fun to.
As they've gone on, I think they've made massive improvements to the sim. It still has bugs, but if I'm talking purely the driving aspect, I think it drives good.
Yeah.
I think I have fun with it.
Okay. So if Dirt Rally starts missing those features that I think makes it kind of a more simulation title, taking advantage of some of the things that a PC brings to gaming, then do they start to lose their ability to gain that market segment that they would have from the simulation enthusiasts and go, okay, well, if it's just that now Dirt Rally 2.0 is just a fun experience, well, then they're going to have to start competing directly head-to-head with titles like WRC 7 or 8 or whatever the new one is for that fun-to-play aspect.
Well, I am cautiously optimistic about WRC 8. It sounds like they're continuing to push the level that they're going.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought 6 was okay. I thought 7 was much better. And if they continue that trend, 8 should be really good. Now let's cross our fingers. Who knows what kind of bugs and everything are going to be present with WRC 8. But from what I've seen, I watched a whole live stream of them showing off the stages, and it looks pretty good. I'm hoping that it's not just some sort of faux sense, what I'm watching the guys when they're driving, but it looks pretty good. And the advantage they have is they have the official WRC license, and their stages are longer.
Yeah.
They have really, they suffer the same thing in that they will break up the stages, but the overall stage length is longer. And for that person that wants that authentic rally experience, if they can get it together, you're going to have a hard sell because they're including classic rally cars now in WRC 8 as well. So you have two kind of merging together, and it's going to be which one executes better, to your point.
If you have the license, it's a lot easier to add historical content than what they're selling today. So if you have the real license, that other stuff is really easy to fill in with later too.
It's just something they haven't done.
Yeah.
They haven't put classic cars in there. And sorry, real quick. Yes, Lee, you can just download 1.1. You don't need 1.0. So yeah, they got flack for not doing that before by not including the older rally cars, because I think people really love specific eras of rally. I mean, we were talking about the Group A stuff last night, or in Gamer Muscle stream yesterday, the Integrale and the Subaru, and there's just so many cars from that era people love, not to mention the modern stuff. And then we have Group B, you have the old classic two-wheel drive cars. I don't know how much they're going to put in, but it's something to think about. So I'll cross my fingers. I hope Killaton comes through.
Absolutely. All right.
Brandon? Okay, so I guess so one of our SImpit guys, one of our Patreon members, brought up this article, and he's a SimuCube direct drive fan. I think he uses an augury. But there is a teaser. I did put a link in Discord for you, Shaun. I don't know if you have that up there or not. But there is a teaser from SimuCube. and I guess the official announcement's coming on April the 3rd, but they have a direct drive wheel that they have talked about or showed pictures of, a wireless setup through a quick release, multi-input connector on the back of their direct drive wheel. And I guess at this point, and it's speculation as far as what the actual product is, but the speculation is that it might be an all-in-one direct drive midge setup. I guess that would compete kind of head-to-head with Fanatec's Podium line.
I have not figured out how this makes my wheel wireless. And then the other question I have on that is, well, and then does that limit the wheel? I mean, that means they will have a wireless wheel.
That was going to be my... I was going to ask the same thing. If you're a direct drive user and you have all these wheels, right? You take reel and then you...
Let's take Climber, for example.
So is it just an adapter? Does that add, does that make the wheel closer? How does that work? I'm not familiar, so I don't know in that respect. I don't know how all that works. I mean, I would assume that they make some sort of solution so you don't have to get rid of anybody that's doing any sort of wireless communication, so you don't have to plug the wheel into the PC. I mean,
it's actually kind of complicated if you think about it, because it's like you don't know the method.
It have to be some sort of adapter.
Yeah, well, and even like when I worked at CXC, we're using like our own quick release, and we had a slip ring type hookup on the shaft to allow. Well, we still had to have our proprietary plug. So if we were using multiple wheels, every single one of them had to have that 4-pin plug. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't just a matter of which quick release. That's just part of it. The other part is the connection. Well, then when I think wireless, it's like, well, then the wheel needs to have the sending, the transmitter needs to be in the wheel side so it knows what I have on that wheel, and that has to be unique to each wheel and somewhat built in, not something you could add on later. The other thing I haven't figured out, because I mean, I looked at that it looks like that end cup. Anyone looking at this picture, let me scroll it down just a little bit. I saw a close-up of just that piece up here, and that looks like a slip ring, essentially. And then it has 2 phone plugs and ways to plug things into it, and it's like, okay, cool. So there's the wiring in, and it can transmit through, but I don't see how that gets to the wheel. It's like, that's the end cap. That's not the shaft side of things.
I think so far there's been 2 solutions to this. It's either, slip ring connectors transfer through that way, or center board shafts, which I think is Fanatec's solution. And then having, whatever's interpreting that data or sending and receiving it being in the base itself. Or I think most of these aftermarket companies, like SimCube or Augury and stuff, are looking at Bluetooth, and then having a separate power source on the wheel just to transmit that data.
And getting the power through the wheelbase or something?
Yeah, either or. So it'd either be, I guess you could use some of them.
Well, I mean, it wouldn't make much sense if you've got a wireless wheel, but you've got to somehow power the wheel with the cord.
I think it's like a charge thing, maybe. Like you actually have to have some sort of onboard power on the wheel. Or
wouldn't that be a bummer? You're all of a sudden it starts flashing.
Yeah,
give you some sort of warning like your wheel's gonna die. Can you imagine the panic that onsets with that? You're like, oh no, I'm leading. It's gonna die.
Yeah, it starts dropping. Well, I guess you'd learn, at that point, make sure your stuff's charged. But either that or how cell phones charge now, how it's got that capacitive thing where you can just set your cell phone on a mat. I wonder if they could do that sort of solution. Put some sort of charging or power transfer wirelessly through the quick release.
So, admittedly confused as we are on this topic, what's with the projector reel-to-reel thing for a steering wheel? I mean, am I missing something? Like that?
It's a tester.
I am more confused by that than anything else in this picture.
I think it's for a pulley.
Yeah, it looks.
Oh, so it can spin the wheel.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I'm sure it adds a certain amount of resistance too. It looks like it's probably weighted.
Okay, that makes sense then.
Yeah, so.
Because when they said, "Would you drive this?" It's like, oh no, I've thought of a lot of things I could use for a steering wheel. I never thought of one of those.
Well, this way you can, you can just hook up
School
another
bus
program and
simulator.
it can drive for you.
Yeah, yeah, I've seen that a lot. Actually, there was somebody that linked a video of a new motion rig that instead of having like the G seat, like you were talking about, Shaun, it's just the base, like the seat pan that you sit on, and it looked like an old bicycle seat almost.
Oh, I saw that. That was Frex. Yep, I saw that.
Frex.
Yeah,
and that moves you kind of in the seat sides, and it was unusual. So
at what point do you're like, no, you know what? I'm not sitting between that machinery. Like,
yeah,
like machines don't care about human tissue. So if you're between some of the, these direct drive motors, I don't know if people realize just how strong they are, but it's like, I really hurt my thumb a week ago on a crash. I watched a video of a guy crashing a Mazda, held onto the wheel and broke that bone in his hand because he held onto the wheel in a crash. Anyways, totally different.
Yeah, well, I guess if somebody wants a good motion simulator, just try and find a country western bar in your town that's going out of business and has a mechanical bull.
There you go.
And then just hook it up to your sim software. So
perfect.
I like that comment. Is that a comment Derek Spear made?
And yes, yep. So sorry, we got kind of sidetracked there. But then the second question I had, hopefully, Dr. Respect, we answered your question as far as Dirt Rally goes. We got some more news in there. But yeah, Derek Spear posed the question, or kind of made the statement that iRacing should really open up their tracks to allow sim racing suppliers, or in my opinion, real life companies, to buy signage on them. What's your guys' take on that as far as allowing real world sponsorship that would deviate from the track signage that's normally there, or in these sims that don't have the licensing to go chase these companies and say, hey, instead of putting, giant Kunos banners everywhere, Castrol, do you want to buy some banners? What do you guys think about that?
I don't know if that's an iRacing thing or a track thing.
I was going to say it might be a licensing issue. Because now I don't know, and that's a funny thing too. Like they buy a license, they get to scan the track. The track had this sponsorship this year, and I'm talking the billboards, not maybe the naming of the track rights, but the actual billboards. And then next year they might have completely different ones, but our track is stuck in time to that date. And I wonder if the licensing deal had to have provided those companies also. I would think in the modern era of the law, I would think that if California Speedway gave you the right to scan, and it has Auto Club isn't the example I'm looking for because that's like they're more hand in hand. But whatchamacallit, tacos, like King Taco has a billboard there. Did they have to also get billboard permission from King Taco for that to be there, or did the licensing right from California? And then the other was that stuck in time? Like you can't, you might not be able to even put your own names. But then in other cases, stepping away from iRacing, I can think of event tracks that were branded for the sponsor names. I think of that all the time. Like, a track that might be branded for, Fanatic or Thrustmaster all over the track because they're a sponsor of the series. And then something like R Factor, where it's really easy to do that, you'll see that done often. But is it done legally? So I'm not sure. I love it in concept. I'd love to see a SImpit banner at Laguna Seca. That would be awesome.
Yeah, I mean it's had to have crossed their minds because it's just another source of revenue for them. Really, I mean if they're allowing companies to buy advertisements at tracks or whatever, that'd just be another revenue source. So I would think it either has to be some sort of licensing or rights issue deal with the track. We know that just because you get the track, depending on the sponsors, some sponsors go with the track, some don't. They get replaced. And in something not like iRacing, you'll see this a lot where I always gave John Sable a hard time. He would hate it when a game would put like Kunos or Assetto Corsa as a track banner. It's like, well, I mean, how many rights do they have, and did the company let them have the rights that when they license the track, that kind of thing. So it's it's got to be something like that. It would be nice. I mean, it would be cool to see some of our in iRacing, some of our favorite sim hardware companies be able to advertise it. Because again, I go back to what I started out the show with. I just feel the more I do this, like the more I feel sim racing is its own entity, its own unique thing. And, you know, what better way to stir the pot than to have some brand loyalty banners around the track. I can't believe they got a Logitech banner out there.
Forget mobile, you know.
Right? Oh, boy.
Be cool if the license was like, here's the virtual rights to the ownership of the track. So your license gives you the right to own your virtual, because there might be more than one. I'll use Laguna Seca as my example. So if Laguna Seca changes from Mazda to WeatherTech, as Tim had mentioned, I don't have to make that change because I own the iRacing virtual Laguna Seca, which means that if I also wanted to make an alternate layout, that it's within my rights. I'm not sure that isn't within their rights already. iRacing would never do such a thing. That's so...
well, that's the problem is all of this stuff we don't own. It's licensed to us. So we never... We never get to technically own any of this.
You know,
you can get is doing a mod.
Yeah. Which, you know, maybe iRacing might, because you think about the rallycross courses. Are all those real life rallycross variants? So you never know. Maybe they would do Laguna Seca with the coming stadium super trucks that they're going to have. I mean, put a ramp at the top of the corkscrew and let's send them.
When Rallycross came out, that was actually one of the most exciting days for me about the concept of iRacing. I'm like, oh, they just broke the mold. Because they've had
they just broke the rule.
Yeah, they've never strayed from this one rule, and now they broke the rule, and it's like, well, that just gave you the ability to do things that mini sim race, like, okay, everyone still wants Kyalami, right? That's like the Grand Prix Legends track that we've never really properly had ever since blah, 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 blah. iRacing, please bring back Kyalami.
Can you imagine if they put Riverside and stuff like that in there with, we've all had these dreams.
Sure.
iRacing is still on a different.
But now they have uncorked the bottle. There's nothing that says they couldn't. It wouldn't be outside of the norm of iRacing at this point. It would just be the first time they did it with asphalt.
Right.
Sorry, the concept of that got me excited because I don't know if either of you watched, you know, we had CODA this last weekend for Indy, and with that, they did have the Stadium Super Truck Series there. And at the exit of Turn 1, you know how it kind of drops, Turn 1's up on that hill and it drops down. They put one of their ramps there. And so coming out of Turn 1, they would hit this ramp that was at the top of this hill, and they actually had to move the thing back because they have this, you know, catwalk kind of skywalk flagger thing that sticks out of the track. They were coming within feet of hitting that thing with the tops of the trucks. So it was awesome. I could just imagine hitting, you know, the top of the corkscrew and hitting the jump and sailing off there. That'd be good times.
Man, I can't wait for that to come out with those dirt tracks. That'll be fun.
I'm looking to see what they're gonna do with those trucks, because, like, sure, we've seen the stadium truck version of it, right, and seen some dirt, but why not CODA with metal ramps? I don't think they've mentioned that, have they? I think it's been strictly...
I don't think so yet.
They haven't mentioned any sort of, like, the series that's happening now, the Super Truck series. It's only been like the off-road.
I think it's more the Lucas stuff, like the Pro 2 Pro 4.
Yeah,
which is more real dirt tracks.
Sure. But tell me it wouldn't be a blast to take a truck around.
Oh, can you imagine?
I watched them do that at Long Beach. It's like, that's just crazy. And those guys are like, you know, they're like over my head. They're like 6 feet in the air, you know, at least. And it's like, that's just insane. And coming down on concrete like it's nothing, that's even more insane.
Yeah, it's impressive. Those things are impressive.
When that does come out, if they don't have that, I'm smelling a great idea for a Patreon race, Shaun.
Oh yeah, that would be cool. We'll do that for sure. We'll do our own variation minus the steel ramps, I guess.
There you go. Yep. I guess that takes us to the end of all that. Billy, do you know, normally this is kind of a part of the show where we would have an open discussion on a topic I would bring up. You know, usually kind of an ideological concept of sim racing, as it were. With me kind of going on hiatus, I think Billy's going to kind of spearhead that side of things. Do you have anything you want to go over this week?
I did have a topic, but we're an hour and 45 in. Maybe we'll save
Fair
it.
enough. Yeah, that's
Maybe
usually the
save it
balancing
for next
point.
time. Yeah.
But, well, in that case, what do you guys have coming up?
Crap. Let's see if I get in. I want to finish my look at the 1.1, the Soul 1.1 mod. And so hopefully I'll get that out this weekend. I may end up doing a video covering the Monte Carlo course in Dirt Rally 2.0. I had a couple other ideas, but I don't think I'm going to get to them this week. So we'll see how it goes. I'm still waiting on the race room stuff. I had a guess that it would be coming out at the end of the month, but maybe it won't. Those GTP cars I really want to try.
How about you, Brandon?
For me, we have our normal practices this weekend, so even though I don't know if I'm going to be able to make the race, I'm still going to prepare like I am, and it's always a help to the team to just get out there and have somebody else to lap with and stuff, or maybe share pointers or setups or whatever with. So I'll still get out there and practice, have fun with the pit crew guys, the Rick Motec endurance team, and then I'm going to pick up the season pass for Dirt Rally 2.0 so I can do Monte Carlo, and then I think we're pretty close here in another week or so from getting some more content from those guys. So it's fun enough that I'm going to go ahead and pick up the DLC for that. And then probably get ready to go on vacation. So
all right,
not a ton. Might see what real world racing's out there. But yeah, how about you, Shaun?
Oh, I guess what's big for me is as soon as this show's over, I'm going to release the Sim Experience GS5 G-Seat review. So that review is all done. Our patron group has been able to watch it actually for, a little while, for a few hours. It went up last night for that group. Anyway, this is, I'm calling it the most innovative product of 2019 because the G-Seat in principle is something that I've thought about, I don't know, maybe the day I started sim racing. The day I started sim racing, I thought, there's no seat of the pants. This is awesome, but it's so wrong. Where's my seat of the pants? Where's my inertia? Where's my G's? So this is really in the right direction in that respect. So anyway, that review, my full review and full thoughts on it are coming out as soon as the show is over. I got that going on. Beyond that, 6 a.m. tomorrow, I'm on a flight to Vegas, and I'll be in Vegas for a week working, because I'm trying to finance real-life wasting of money by going to a track with a car and wasting money. So, yes, a guy's got to work if he wants to race. So, yeah, I'm trying to get it back out in that Lemons or Lucky Dog or, I can't even remember which one I'm running, Chump Car. But I'm trying to finance one of those, so yeah, I gotta go work. So yeah, I'm gonna be gone. I won't be in my sim rig for a full week. None of my sim rigs will be touched for a week. But that doesn't mean that I won't be doing my share of sim racing, because I'm actually working with VRX simulations, so I'm gonna be around motion simulators for the whole week. I think the trade show I'm working is called CinemaCon. So that could be cool. I mean, for me, half the fun of working trade shows is what is the trade show. And if it's one I've never worked before, it's always entertaining. So
I got 2 questions for you, Shaun.
Yes.
Did you save up bail money since you're going to Vegas?
Truth be told about me, I don't like gambling. I literally hate gambling. It's like, and no offense to people do. I'm not trying to knock people and what they like. To me, it's really boring. And then I really love money. So why would I give people my money? So, yeah, gambling is zero entertainment to me. For a few years, I clung on to, slot machines, trying to act like they were fun. And then one day, I was actually having a good day, and I was winning. And I'm like, I'm bored out of my mind. This isn't even fun. Yeah, money is cool, but no. So, I don't gamble. I don't really drink. So I'm
What
not
about get out of jail bail money though? If you guys get wild and crazy.
but see, that's the thing. But I am impressionable. So if the right people pull me the right way, you never know where Shaun will end
You
up.
heard it here. Shaun gives into peer pressure.
I do. If people are up for having a good time, I'll go have a good time. But my instinct will be work the trade show, hotel room, recover, work, recover, work, recover, so that when I get home, I can get right back to work. Because it's a really long break at a really bad time. So, yeah, that's what I got going on. I wish I had more excitement than that, but no.
And then, have you made a decision on your other deal? On Laguna?
No,
or not Laguna. I'm sorry.
No, so that's what
I think you ought to ask. I think you ought to ask the community and ask chat and see what they think you should do.
All right, that's fair enough.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
No, that's fine. I have to disclaim one thing before I even start this. To know me, Shaun Cole, is to know that when it comes to racing, like, I have no self-control, and I am really bad at wasting money on racing in particular. Anytime I've ever come into money, it went right into racing. So if I saved up money for retirement, nope, let's go racing. Anyway, what I have is an opportunity to run the Aqua Volvo, that Volvo 240 in a Lucky Dog race at Willow Springs, the big track. And I really want to do it on one hand. But here's the catch. The race is the same weekend as the endurance race, the Nürburgring race that I've been prepping for, that I have a whole team counting on me. So I'm sitting there going, oh, I don't know. My team's counting on me, but I'm selfish and I want to race. But then the real life racing comes with expense. So that was sort of it teetered the scale for me. And I'm like, I'm not going to do it because it's too much money. And then I got this gig, and then it was like, oh, I guess I have the money covered for that race, so let's be Shaun and let's go race. Anyway, so I'm kind of on the fence still. I'm working the gig because the money's good, and then we'll just... I'm still up in the air. So yeah, if you guys have an opinion...
Dare you do things for money?
Should a person be responsible, or should they race? That's question number one, because responsible thing would be...
That is the eternal burning question of racers in general.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Should I eat tonight or should I buy a new tire?
I mean, it's like, when I'm 90, I could go foodless because of the decision I make tomorrow.
At 90, you might not care.
No, you know what?
Yeah.
I already don't care. I just want to race. You know what? I don't care. I'll be homeless. It doesn't matter. I'll be the homeless dude like, well, this one time in the blue Volvo at Willow, nobody saw it. It wasn't a big deal, but yeah, I had a really good run. But
I love that impression. Some like old grizzled veteran. He's all, you won't believe what I've seen, kid. There were times when I was in the Aqua Volva. It blew my mind.
It was so dark at Button Willow.
oh, I've even been riding. I'm trying to get back in shape, like in summer racing shape instead of winter lazy shape. So yeah, I've even been like, the mental game's already going, the physical game's already going. I'm like, it all works for sim racing too, so that's cool. Yeah, Willow, big Willow.
Well, for what it's worth,
Right
if
on.
I had the opportunity and it conflicted with a sim racing race, I would say, see you suckers. I'm out.
And what about the responsibility factor though? Like, I don't have kids, so it's like, there's nothing controlling my thinking whatsoever, other than just like, well, it'd be smart to save money instead of spending it like it grows on trees. Because it's really expensive for what it is. I mean, I'll spend $1,000. Let's say it would be $1,000. That's about what a race weekend. For anybody who's ever thought about Lemons, Lucky Dog, whatever, you find a team, you got all your gear, you're ready to go. It's about $1,000 per weekend. So it's not outrageously expensive. That's cheaper than driving school. It's cheaper than real life racing. But it's still $1,000. I mean, I don't know. I'm out of
It's hard to
control.
say, and that's a
Indeed.
personal thing. If you have other obligations that are lacking or that you're putting aside to do this, that's one thing. But
Just
if you've
retirement.
got the, yeah, well, I mean, that can always be next year, right? So,
You can always do that tomorrow.
yeah, yeah.
Tomorrow.
So that's a personal choice, but I think given if you have the funds and it's not putting you in the lurch, why not? And realistically, $1,000 shouldn't derail somebody's entire retirement, as it were. So,
And this is a philosophy that I might someday regret, but I have a real live for today philosophy because I don't know that there will be a tomorrow. Like, today's guaranteed, tomorrow isn't. So my logic has always leaned on...
How dare you not plan for the future?
I hope people are learning.
Parents that are
man,
disappointed.
This is such a do as I say, not as I do kind of thing. It's like, man, I hope nobody is taking inspiration from me on this. But yeah, I don't know. I just feel like at some point I'm supposed to grow up, but it hasn't happened.
Yeah.
I
think for me, given the opportunity, we're all here, right? Because Billy, if you had the chance to be back in a sprint car or any sort of race car, you'd do it yesterday, right?
Later, losers.
Yeah. If I had the chance, or the budget or the income to have a track car, go-kart, run at the local oval, it doesn't matter what it is, jump car, lemons, I'd do it in a heartbeat. You have the opportunity, and if you have the money, hell yeah, do it.
Yeah, I'm leaning that way for sure. And it doesn't even end there because I'm still sitting here going, I really wouldn't mind getting a car I could get into like SCCA, or SSCA, whatever it is. They'll make me learn it. But I still am like, how am I going to pull that off? I don't have I don't even have the space. I don't have anything I need, but it's like, the brain is always trying to put that equation together. It's like, I'm so not done. Yeah. Later, losers. I like that.
Yeah.
So just so everybody knows,
to...
Shaun may be missing. Yep.
Yeah. As Shaun comes to the ever eternal decision that racers make, I think that's the end of the show.
Yeah.
I think so.
I don't think they really can, other than lemons, I don't think you can work your way into the seat of a car. So it's like, you can't go to some garage, or some team and be like, hey man, I'll do anything after hours. I'll put in, 40 hours a week after my other job just so I can get some seat time. It's like, yeah, I don't think they really do that. They just want you to write a check. It's like,
yeah,
the only way to race is to write a check. Unfortunately, it's a very rare sport in that respect.
Well, all right. I think that's all I've got for today. You guys got anything else?
No,
nope, that's it. We're good.
A reminder to everybody. I'm very sorry for the short notice that the SImpit will be off the air all of next week. Be sure to tune in and check in with Billy Strange to find out what he may or may not be doing this weekend. All week long, not just Friday, but Friday there won't be the official Beyond the Sim here. So I really do apologize for short notice. I like to give people more warning. This one really snuck up on me out of nowhere, and 4 in the morning, I got to get up. So that's it for me.
All right,
Billy?
Exciting stuff.
Okay. And guys, it's been fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you for everybody that has watched the show and has been so supportive. It's meant the world. I've had a great time doing it, and I'll be back around.
I'll say one more thing on that. I want to thank you. The credits. And just when I was gonna thank you, it was like, nah, forget that. Let's run credits.
Jeez.
No, I really want to thank you, Brandon, because you really have helped. This is our 15th episode of Beyond the Sim. We have a name, we have a place, we have a time, we have a format, and it's been a real pleasure doing these 15 shows with you. And just so people out there know that this particular show might not exist. I mean, it's been around in theory and concept forever. It's been done before. It's not even new. But this coming together has really been in great part to Brandon putting it together and really kind of staying on top of me and Billy a little bit to make it happen. So Brandon, thank you so much. And you'll be missed. And I hope that you can find your way to come by as often as possible. you know, when you can. So, and the best of luck out there getting back to the, well, here, the whole topic, final topic of the day, to the responsibilities of life.
Very much so. Yeah. So thank you. Thank you. It's been a pleasure, guys. It really has. It's,
Yep, I couldn't have said it any better.
you guys are fantastic. And, you know, if you're into sim racing, these are the two channels you need right here.
Absolutely.
Billy Strange
Well, thank
Racing
you.
and the SImpit.
I completely agree.
And
Thanks,
and
guys.
yep, piggyback off that, it's because of everybody's support we're doing the podcast stuff. We're on SoundCloud and iTunes. So again, thanks for everybody hanging out.
Yep. I'm going to take one on the airplane with me, actually. I want to listen to last week's show, but that one's not up yet. I'll have to
No, not there yet.
I'll have to download it by other means. But anyway, that's going to do it for this one. Everybody, get out there, do some racing this weekend. Have some fun. Maybe watch a regular pro race and use that as inspiration for where you should go race or what you should get out there and do some racing with. But absolutely have a fun. And I want to thank Billy, thank Brandon, and that's going to do it for this edition of Beyond the Sim.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Hit the track.